The Puck Portfolio with Andy MacNeil.
Hey, welcome to the Puck Portfolio. I'm your host, Andy MacNeil, and on today's show, we're talking about the Vegas Golden Knights and the Nashville Predators doing 2024-25 season previews for both teams. But it is September 30th, a Monday, and we have to talk about the biggest story from this weekend, and that, of course, is Patrik Laine's knee injury. Laine had to be helped off the ice on Saturday. He was unable to walk back to the locker room under his own power following a knee-on-knee hit by Maple Leaf centerman Cedric Perret. Laine could be seen throwing his gloves and his helmet in frustration as he was being helped to the back by members of the Canadian staff, and he looked to be in a lot of pain. We saw a shot of Laine grimacing as he turned the corner in the back, and here's what NHL insider Elliotte Friedman had to say about Laine's seemingly devastating injury on Sunday's edition of the 32 Thoughts podcast. Friedman said, "The Canadians do not know the extent of the damage yet. I think the best way to put it is that they are hoping for the best, but preparing for the worst. I guess the best at this point would be a short duration in terms of recovery, but the worst being a season-ending injury. So obviously, this could impact Montreal's forecast for the 2024-25 season. Laine was seen at the Canadiens training camp on crutches today. But with a few days remaining before the season starts, we can wait until we learn the full extent of this injury to make any adjustments to the Canadiens' projected point total. According to reporter Arpan Basu on X, the Canadiens will not be providing an update on Laine's injury on Monday. But I will say, as somebody who bet on the Canadiens to exceed their regular season point total, which is set at 76.5 or 77.5, depending on where you shop, I'm crossing my fingers that Laine will not miss the entirety of the NHL season. But let's get into the teams that we're going to cover today. We're going to shift gears to the Western Conference and first take a look at the Vegas Golden Knights. The Golden Knights are one season removed from winning the Stanley Cup, and while they've still got what it takes to win it again, the betting market sees them as more of a fringe playoff team than one of the best teams in the Western Conference. Sportsbooks have the Golden Knights pegged for 98.5 points in 2024-25, which means they aren't expecting the team to improve on last season's 98-point finish. The team is going to look different after all, after losing Jonathan Marchessault, Chandler Stevenson, and William Carrier, and several other members of their Stanley Cup winning roster this offseason. And while the players that they've brought in are intriguing, there's some added uncertainty when trying to project this team's ceiling. Marchessault will turn 34 in December, so it's understandable why the team didn't want to sign him to a long-term deal late into his 30s, but he did score 42 goals last season, and those goals are going to be difficult to replace. I think it says a lot about this Vegas Golden Knights team that Jack Eichel is currently the odds-on favorite to lead the team in goals and points at minus 182 odds, given that he's played 63 and 67 games respectively over the last two seasons, and he hasn't hit the 80-game mark since his rookie season. Eichel did lead the team in points 2 years ago, but he only beat out Chandler Stevenson that season by a single point. Last season, Eichel finished 1 point behind Jonathan Marchessault for the team lead. I think the point that I'm trying to make here is that Vegas doesn't pack as much of a punch now, and there's even more pressure on Eichel to deliver. He put up 66 and 68 points respectively over the last two seasons, but Bet365 currently has Eichel pegged for 74.5 regular season points. So there is the added pressure that I'm talking about right there. We'll see if he can step up and hit that mark, but I think it's a little bit high, if not fair, when it comes to a player that hasn't played a full season in quite some time. Thomas Hertl, who the Vegas Golden Knights picked up towards the end of last season, he has the next best odds at North Star Bets to lead the team in scoring at plus 450. He scored 30 plus goals twice in his career, but unlike in San Jose, I think there are quite a few players above him on the depth chart here, so it's unlikely that he'll get the same sort of opportunities that he's got in past seasons. William Karlsson, of course, scored 30 plus goals for the second time in his career last season, but it was another shooting percentage bender for Karlsson. Of course, he had that explosive year in the Golden Knights inaugural season. But last year, he had a 17% shooting percentage. His shooting percentage was closer to 11% over the 5 previous seasons, though. And I think that's why he's down at 15-1 to finish with the most goals. Don't expect 30 plus goals from William Karlsson this season. And as far as the offseason changes go on offense, at least, I mean, Vegas is hoping that Victor Olofsson, who once had some pretty good success playing with Eichel in Buffalo, can find his game and regain his form in Vegas. And the team is also taking a chance on Alexander Holtz, who was drafted number 7 in 2020, but fell out of favor with the New Jersey Devils organization. I still don't see how they replace all the offense that left this past summer, though. However, unlike the forward group, the team's blue line is mostly intact from last season, and that's a pretty good thing. The team graded out as average or even below average when it came to suppressing shots last season, but they ranked among the top 10 in expected goals against, so they did a pretty decent job suppressing chances. However, following the acquisition of Noah Hanifin, the Golden Knights ranked 3rd in expected goals against per 60 minutes between March 7th and the end of the season. Hanifin will challenge Alex Pietrangelo for the position of the team's number 1 defenseman. The 27-year-old scored 13 goals and 47 points in 80 games split between Calgary and Vegas last season, which was more than Pietrangelo or Shea Theodore. But more importantly, he has elite underlying metrics, one of the best defenders in the NHL. VGK owned roughly 56% of the expected goals during 5-on-5 play when Hanifin was on the ice in the regular season. Bet365 has Hanifin pegged for 50.5 points heading into the 2024-25 season. The closest he's ever gotten to that mark, though, is 48 points, which he put up in 81 games back in 21-22 with the Calgary Flames. But, of course, can't talk defense without talking about the last line of defense, the goaltending, and only one of the 4 goaltenders that helped Vegas win the Stanley Cup is still with the team at this moment. Thankfully, it's the best one in Adin Hill. That said, the 28-year-old has never started more than 35 games in a season, and there's a chance his workload could increase this year. He's won 25 and 35 games respectively over the last 2 seasons, but Bet365 has him set for just 25.5 wins this season, maybe because he could be giving up some starts to one of the 2 goaltenders that Vegas brought in, Ilya Samsonov and Akira Smid, who have both shown that they can be NHL starters, albeit over a smaller sample size, but they have shown upside nonetheless. Hill will have the inside track on the starting job, though, but it's good that there is some healthy competition here with the Vegas Golden Knights in the goal position. Personally, I still think the Vegas Golden Knights are a playoff team. I've got them finishing with 99 points on average, so right in line with the betting market. Not a hot take there, I don't think. 12% of the time they won the Pacific Division, so like I said, not necessarily a contender to win the Pacific Division, but still in the mix nonetheless. 2% of the time they finished in first place overall and won the President's Trophy, and 4% of the time they won the Stanley Cup. I could see this team missing the playoffs. It happened 21% of the time, so not 0. But, overall, I think the Vegas Golden Knights will be a decent team that will challenge for a playoff spot. Ultimately, they'll probably prevail and claim a playoff spot, but we'll see how far they go once they get there. They bowed out to the Dallas Stars in the first round last season. And it's going to be tough for them to get back to the heights that they were at prior to this past offseason. Lots of changes in Vegas. We'll see how it all works out. But I want to talk about the Nashville Predators. A little more optimism there. The Predators went 47-30-5 last season to finish with 99 points. And sportsbooks had them listed at 99.5 points heading into the 2024-25 season. On the one hand, I think it's kind of square to say that Nashville will be better this season just because they added some talented players like Steven Stamkos, Jonathan Marchessault, and Brady Shea. But on the other, I think the Predators were deserving of all 99 points they accumulated last season and then some. Nashville ranked 6th in expected goals percentage at 5-on-5 last season, according to Evolving Hockey, and only 2 teams, the Panthers and the Hurricanes, generated more expected goals per 60 minutes during 5-on-5 play. Unfortunately, offense was a bit of a struggle for Nashville as they generated about 0.35 goals fewer than expected on a per 60-minute basis. But I think Steven Stamkos and Jonathan Marchessault could help change that for the better. I mean, yeah, both Stamkos and Marchessault might be a little long in the tooth. They are both far closer to the end of their careers than the beginning, but both players put up 40 or more goals last season, and maybe 40 for both players this season is a bit ambitious, but given the new scenery, but I think 30 plus goals, it's a realistic ask for both players, especially Stamkos, who has scored at a 30 plus goal pace in 13 out of the last 14 seasons. His regular season goal total is set at 34 and a half, which I think is bang on. 35 goals would be my expectation, an average year for Steven Stamkos, while Marchessault is set at 30 and a half goals. Once again, I think that is pretty fair. One player I've really got my eye on, though, heading into this season is center Tommy Novak, who could be on a line with both Stamkos and Marchessault. There are no player props available for Novak right now, but he'll be somebody that I'll be targeting early in the season on a game-to-game basis. Once the season starts, he scored 18 goals and 45 points in 71 games last season, 17 goals and 43 points in 51 games the season before. So a little bit of a drop off there in terms of his production per game, but maybe he gets a bigger opportunity this season and playing with some more talented line mates at that. So I've got my eye on Tommy Novak. I also got my eye on Gustav Nyquist, as the 35-year-old scored 23 goals and 75 points last season, but he probably won't get an equal opportunity. He ranked fourth in power play time last season. He put up 24 of his 75 points on the man advantage. He might still play on the team's second power play, but he almost certainly is going to lose out his first power play time to more talented players like Stamkos and Marchessault. So I think you're going to see a drop off from him, but he will likely still spend some time playing on the top line alongside Philip Forsberg, who, of course, is still the main guy in Nashville. He scored 48 goals last season. It was his second 40-plus goal season in 3 years after playing just 50 games in 22-23. That said, his 42 and a half goal regular season total is a pretty high mark, I think, if we're talking about, a baseline prediction here, especially now that he'll have two more talented shooters on the power play, taking some of his shots away, where Forsberg has scored roughly 25% of his goals on the power play over the last 3 seasons. So I think that's a reason to expect a little bit of a drop off for him in terms of his goal scoring. And then there's Roman Josi, who, of course, is a perennial Norris Trophy contender. He'll be paired with the newly acquired Brady Shea this season by the looks of things. And he's put up 96 and 85 points in 21-22 and 23-24, respectively, just to give you an idea of where his ceiling is. Bet365 currently has Yossi's regular season total set at 82 and a half points. I don't know about you, but I think he gets there, guys. Assuming he plays a full season, I think him and Shea will be a really good pairing. Bold prediction, eh? But I think there's a lot to like there on the second pairing too with Alexander Carrier. He's a good defender that will eat up some valuable minutes on that second pair. But the blue line leaves a lot to be desired after that, because you know exactly what you're going to get out of players like Luke Shen and Jeremy Lozon. Nothing special there. Fortunately, though, the Predators accumulated 99 points in what was seen as a down year from goaltender Juuse Saros, who has been one of the most consistent goaltenders in the NHL. Saros ranked 17th in goals saved above expected among goaltenders that faced at least 2,000 unblocked shot attempts last season. But the season before, he ranked second in that category, goals saved above expected. And it was the third best mark a goaltender has posted all time, according to Evolving Hockey. So he's currently 15-1 to win the Vezina Trophy at Sports Interaction, which is where I start to think he's a really good bet to win the award. I mean, he has the ceiling. He's gone a full season with a 927 save percentage in the past. He's also shown that he can match the output of a goaltender like Ilya Sorokin, who is, nowadays a perennial favorite to win the award, and other elite goaltenders like Connor Hellebuck, etc., last season's winner. And in my opinion, I think Saros, his floor is a lot higher than most of the goaltenders in the league, including some of the names ahead of them on the odds board, like Jake Ottinger. I think Saros has a higher floor than Ottinger right now. I don't think we've ever seen Saros, reach the depths that we've seen Ottinger reach at times. And there's also a lot of uncertainty surrounding a guy like Thatcher Demko, who is also ahead of Saros in terms of Vezina Trophy odds. So I mean, it really doesn't make sense that the Canucks goalie is listed ahead of Saros. It doesn't make sense that Saros is not among one of the top 3 or 4 players in terms of odds to win the Vezina Trophy. I mean, my model has Nashville finishing the season with 102 points on average, which gives them an 85% chance of making the playoffs, an 18% chance of winning the Central Division. So I believe they can overachieve, and I think Saros to win the Vezina is the bet that makes the most sense when it comes to this team, because he seems to have been forgotten about a little bit. He's never won the award, but he's been a finalist before, and he's usually the Predators' most valuable player year in and year out. So I really like Saros to win the Vezina at 15-1, which is the current odds at Sports Interaction. If you shop around, you'll see some other sports books offering 11-1 prices like that. I really think it's worth shopping around and finding the 15-1 or better if possible. But 15-1 is kind of my cutoff. But yeah, that does it for today's episode of the Puck Portfolio. Thanks for watching. We'll be back on Wednesday with Arthur Staple from The Athletic. We'll be talking the New York Rangers with Arthur. Will also break down the upcoming season for the New Jersey Devils and the Carolina Hurricanes on Wednesday, because, hey, we got to knock off the Metropolitan Division. We don't have very many shows left before the start of the NHL season, which, of course, gets started on October 4th with the international games between the Devils and the Buffalo Sabres. But everything else gets going next week, and we've got a lot to get done before then. So until then, good luck with your bets. We'll see you on Wednesday.